Coming to you from Star Studios in Calvert, Texas, this is Coffee with a Sign Painter, a podcast hosted by me, sign painter Sean Starr. Our groovy intro music was written and recorded for this show by Fergal Lawler of the Cranberries. Thanks, Fergal.
Great.
Okay, so this is Sarah Harvey with Paint Your Wagon, which I've been following for I don't know how many years now, but I've been super intrigued with what you do, and I'm really interested to find out the backstory of how you got into it, of painting gypsy caravans, and you do signs and stuff as well.
I do. Yeah.
I've seen some boats that you've done that are fabulous. And I'm a big fan of what you're doing. And from what you told me before, you kind of have like this gypsy nomadic lifestyle, traveling around painting them as well. Is that correct?
Oh, Sean, thanks for having me. First of all, thank you, because you had so much patience with me coming on here. So thanks. And it's been a good few years actually since since you are so great. It's great to be on it. So what was the first question again?
There you go.
The gypsy lifestyle.
Yeah. It sounds to me like you're just traveling around painting these fabulous looking old caravans, which over here would be kind of like I think that would probably be called a trailer by most people, but it's kind of like old school RV trailer that was pulled by horses originally, correct?
Yeah. That, absolutely. Well, it sounds more of an idyllic lifestyle than it probably really is. Sometimes
that's how all things are, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I really enjoy traveling. I really enjoy meeting people, and I love spending time with people that are a bit off the wall. I do like that. So. And getting to work with some really old boys that have been doing it for years is always great. So, but how I got into it in the first place was I was up on Dartmoor, which is this huge, great expanse of very rural Devon, and I was painting the back of somebody's van. It was a pictorial thing. And I think there was a party on, and someone just rocked up and to invite people to the party, and came and said, "Oh, hey, if you ever fancy painting a gypsy wagon?" And I have always fancied painting a gypsy wagon. Okay. And I said, "Yeah, definitely, I'd love to." And this guy, he was in the business of buying and selling wagons, and so I waited. This was before internet and fancy phones and stuff like that. So I just studied it, and I found out people that did it. I went to meet a couple of people that did it, and chatted with them a lot. And I waited a year. So a year later, the guy suddenly phones out the blue, said, "Hey, I've got a wagon for you to paint." And so I turn up. At his place on Dartmoor, and I'm quite nervous. This is I don't know. It was a few hundred years old, this wagon, and it was really lovely. And I was nervous, and I looked at it, and the guy that had painted this wagon was called Tom Stevenson, who I'd already found out about him, and I knew he'd passed away. And his work. This was the first time I'd seen a gypsy wagon, in the flesh. And I looked at all his work and thought, "Oh my God!" And it was a repair job. Okay. So I had to replicate his work exactly, and you know how colours fade, and so I had to mix the colours so they looked exact like the cream, And I remember it taking me about half an hour getting this cream exactly right and putting pink in it and green in it, every colour under the sun, and eventually got it. But anyways, but what So this was the pinstriping, and there was a really amazing guy called Johnny Pickett, and he's also dead now, sadly. A lot of these amazing guys from a few years ago,
Uh-huh.
a lot of them have passed away now, but for me, he was a bit of a hero. He built wagons, he carved wagons, and he painted them, and every single bit of that, anything that he did, he was fantastic. And so he was a real character. Okay, now he couldn't paint unless he'd had, I don't know, a bottle of whiskey or whatever.
I've known a few like that.
Yeah, the guy could hardly stand, but as soon as he put a brush on that wagon, he was off and he was flawless. So I think there's a pub next door, old-fashioned English village pub next door, and I think, well, okay, if it works for him, I'd give it a go. I go in the pub. Now, I'm not a drinker. Yeah, I'm not a good drinker. But I have 2 pints of Guinness, which for me is a lot. So I come out of there, full of Dutch courage. Yeah, of course I can do this. So I start pinstriping away. 2 hours later, the alcohol kind of wears off, and I look at it and think, oh, my God. So I get it all off really, really quickly. And then the guy turns up, and I pretend that I've only just got there. I'm just about to start, So that was my first introduction of wagon painting.
So did you switch to coffee to get the job done?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I did. Yeah, coffee and more coffee, and I worked for him for a long time actually after that.
And how long ago was that? When did you do your first one?
35, 45, 20. Wow. 26 years ago.
So you've been doing it a long time.
5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, some of the lovely old fellas up north, they're in their 70s, 80s, and they've been doing it all their lives. They're incredible. But
at 26 years, you're just a newbie, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just a newbie. Yeah. But some of these, these old fellas, they're incredible. But so I worked with a guy called Lowell Thompson, he's always kept himself pretty much under the radar, but he's in quite a few books and stuff, on wagons, because he's a great character. Sadly, he passed away last year. That was a sad thing. But so I used to paint with him a lot. I used to take the train, go up there, and you'd just be in this huge, great big shed, and he'd have this old coal fire going, and it stank of coal. And but we had a laugh, we got some tunes on, and you just get to it. And sure. I remember once saying to him, Lowell, can I open the doors? No windows in the place, so it's like being in a dungeon, but with good lights, obviously. Yeah. Can we open the doors, to this place? No, love, no, we can't open the doors. It'd let the dust in, And I'm thinking, the dust. Yeah, but what about all the dust from the coal fire? It's really funny that kind, that mentality. But so we worked like that, like a couple of moles, and we'd start at maybe 6, 7 o'clock, and we'd work through. I was the one that usually wanted to go on, actually, and he said, no, we've got to stop now because, it does your eyes in. We've got to stop. And I'd open the door and I'd squint, like this little mole coming out of the earth. It was quite funny. So, but I enjoyed that because it was one experience, but I do enjoy working on them in the light with lots of fresh air around me.
Yeah. That's a better arrangement.
Yeah. The one shot does tend to get a bit foggy.
So, those old caravans, are there still people living in them, or do people restore them for so they can go camping, or what? How are they used now?
Yeah, both really. It's surprising. There's a lot of people that do live in wagons still.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people that buy them to live in. Nowadays on the roads, it's not so great for traveling with horses. You know, the roads are really busy. I got a couple of friends, one in particular who travels in his van all the time. So he makes border pipes, which are kind of like bagpipes, and he does some blacksmithing. His
Nice.
daughter plays the fiddle, so he makes a good living, you know, on the road. And he's like a gentleman of the road. He's very funny, very polite, got great sense of humor.
Now you realize that this picture you're painting, describing all this stuff, is like this extremely romantic idea. Like I'm just picturing the English countryside with people like riding around in these old wagons and making bagpipes. That sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, he does do that, but he's had some really hairy times like this. You know, he was on the road and a car just went straight into his horse that he had on the back. He had one at the front, one on the back, bleeding, and the police came and had to put the horse down. And another friend, his horse bolted because this car just came right in too close and took off. Luckily, he was all right, but the wagon was like a pile of matches, you know. So I wouldn't want to do that in England. In Ireland, where there's loads of space. The roads aren't so busy. That would be better. And it's not years ago in the 60s, as well, 70s maybe, that, you know, with less traffic, that would have been good. But I don't fancy it now. But there are still plenty of people that do it. And there's a lot of people that have them for glamping and, you know, people come and have their little hideaways and holiday breaks and stuff like that, and they stay in their wagons and stuff. Sure. And they live. Some of them are, you know, most of them are off grid, thankfully. But I did paint 4 tow Avados, which are like gypsy wagons, but they're really long. They're built on an Ivor Williams farm trailer. And they're in a holiday park, and the kids come and go, hey, where's the internet? So they're all wired up for Wi-Fi, you know, which to me is, I just want to get away from all that stuff, you know. But
well, and that's one of the things I wanted to ask you. You know, you're describing this community of people that sounds like they like unplugged and, you know, they're just living this different kind of life out in the rural area. Like, what do you see as the common denominator with the people that are choosing to live that way? Are you seeing anything, or is it just everybody's kind of got their own thing?
Yeah, everyone kind of has got their. There are people that like to have peace, like writers, like artists, or people that just want a bit of peace. They live in a really hectic city or something like that, and they just want to get away from it. Yeah. And I don't quite understand the people that want to come into one that's got Wi-Fi and electric and all of that stuff, because that's not essentially what that living's about. But yeah. I guess if they've got kids and it's raining, I don't know. I just think get some games out, get some cards out. I don't know, anything but, you know, watching the internet. But, you know, I can't judge really. Maybe if I had 5 small children, I'd want to
keep
say,
it
hey,
busy.
let's watch, you know, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm really interested in it because, you know, we moved from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 5 million people plus, to a town of just over 1,000.
Wow.
And, you know, we're located in Central Texas. It's all just, you know, farm and ranch property all around us. And, you know, to me, it was a change I wanted to make so badly because of just, you know, that energy that's constantly pulling at you, especially if you have a business and, you know, just, it's got to get done. We got this opening happening. This has to happen. This has to happen. And I still get that, you know, because I'm still have a lot of the same clientele, but I just, for the day-to-day living side of it, like this just feels so much more sane to me. And I just, you know, I don't, like you said, I don't understand when people even if they're just getting away for a few days, like, you know, it's one of the reasons I love long motorcycle trips is because
Yeah.
you couldn't
get
check your
away.
phone if you wanted to, unless you're like one of those really weird people that's like, you
Yeah.
can
Got to
get
pinch your ear.
yeah, and you can get technology that like alerts you in your helmet and lets you know that you got a phone call or a text or whatever. But it's just like, to me, it's like I cherish those times where I am not plugged in,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
especially with the way the last year has gone. It's like I think,
Oh,
um,
yeah. It's
I,
really upped its ante on that, hasn't it?
yeah, and I was talking about this with Mike Meyer on the last interview. Was I think last year, if you take it as such, is a huge gift, even though it's
Mm,
been, a real beating for so many people. And a
yeah.
lot of people are struggling still from it. But it's like just to be, technology has accelerated so much over the last,
Mm,
5 years, especially, that it's like just to be disconnected and slow down and be able to kind
mm,
of reassess like what's important to us and everything.
yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
super valuable.
Yeah. You're right. I think there's an awful lot of people that have appreciated really what they've got.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, some people obviously it's been really hard for them because they're in a high rise or something flipping
Yeah.
awful like that. But yeah, people that have made a conscious effort to move, to move out of the mainstream, I think that this time is massively appreciated, hugely actually, because you really feel the peace then.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think us like hippie sympathizers is what I would call it. It's like, yeah, maybe we don't seem as crazy now. I don't know.
yeah.
You're not on
Myself,
board with that, no?
myself, I don't want to comment on that one first, but yeah, I think I know what you mean. Oh yes, no, sure. Sorry, I completely get what you mean. Yeah, well, this whole living thing. I mean, in England, so years ago, I lived in a truck, and lots of my friends lived in trucks. We lived in trucks, we lived in vans, and we traveled about and had a great time.
Hmm.
And but I remember getting this is England, and I remember somebody shooting through my window, because that's how I lived. I had an old 1947 a caravan. It was beautiful. It was actually built as a mobile dentist, and they built them as bags, kind of like, sort of like not like an Airstream, but more bits to it. It kind of wasn't
Okay.
just smooth and long and low, and it was painted up, cream and dark red, kind of traditional colours. But for travellers back then, they were vigilantes.
Uh-huh.
It got pretty bad, and in the with the Tory government, it was pretty shocking.
Okay.
But now how things have changed. Everybody wants to live like that because they think it's a really good idea and they love it. I mean,
Yeah.
years ago you'd have to hide your chimney, or maybe like watch where you park, maybe hide your chimney, because somebody spot the smoke, and things like that. But you walk down the seafront, where I'm living at the moment in the summer, and it's wall to wall with kids in their vans, and a lot
Yeah.
of them are living because they can't afford a place to live, this crazy rent.
Yeah.
So they're living in their vans, and I like it
Hmm.
personally. I think good, because they're doing the thing and they're being independent, which is great.
And that's what
But
I mean by hippie sympathizer. It's like,
yeah,
you,
sure,
you know,
yeah.
all of that kind of free spirit, bohemian, stuff. I think that, comparing that to like going the corporate route with the brand new iPhone every year and, all of that stuff, it's like, yeah, I go with the other guy. Sorry.
Yeah, me too. No, definitely. Yeah, I think I've had my phone for a couple of years now,
Yeah.
but it's only because I broke the other one. Otherwise, I'd have still had the old one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, a good friend of mine in California, so he's got a beautiful Burton wagon that belonged to his father, and I came out. I think it was a couple of years ago now, and he he'd had it shipped over there, and had spent 40 years gradually doing it up, and so it was ready for decoration. And so I went and spent a couple of months out there painting it up, and a little cart. So he's got a little kind of a little day cart that he rides out with his horses. And I was meant to be over there actually last year, finishing it off, but I couldn't get there. So I'm hoping that it'll come. But there is a few actually. There's a few wagons in English wagons in the States as well.
Is there? Is there?
Yeah. Yes, it quite amazed me actually. That there's a chap called Dennis Thompson who introduced the Gypsy Vanna horses to the States.
Huh.
And he's got a ranch that he has gypsy wagons and the traditional cob horses that pull them. So I think he breeds them, I think.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, yes. It amazed me. It amazed me the interest, I think, over there. And so I was thinking about the arts and how different it is, and it kind of amazed me how people were so interested in it from the States. And so the scrolling on the wagons, so that came from carvings originally. Okay. So from the fairground, so years and years ago, like 18 something, maybe mid 18th century. So the fairground people, they had a lot of dosh because the fairgrounds were big and a lot of people came and they made a lot of money. So they could afford to employ like 20, 30 carvers. And they would carve these beautiful scenes, these beautiful acanthus-like carvings. Yeah. And then, of course, a lot of them would have showman's wagons and gypsy wagons. So the carvings would go on those wagons too, and they would be beautiful. And then but then you have the real gypsies, the gypsies that lived, the people that lived on the road that were poor, that made a living from selling lace, making clothes pegs, selling heather, whatever they did. They couldn't afford to have all these really amazing carvings. So they looked at the carvings and thought, okay, so we're going to paint that. We're proud people. We're proud. We want to make our homes beautiful. So they started to paint the carvings, and so the paintings, the scrolls, are meant to emulate carvings.
Okay.
So that's why you get the shading, the lining, and all that kind of stuff.
I'm so fascinated by the history of things like this because there's such a similarity with. In the United States, when there was the migration west, in the movies, when Hollywood was making movies in the 40s and 50s of old Westerns, the way they were portraying things was not accurate for the same reasons that you're describing is, these people had nothing. They were moving out west, so like a saloon window would just have like if it had anything, it would be very plain generic lettering on it. But then you saw in the movies it would be really ornate gold leaf or whatever. And but it's so fascinating to me because there's this aesthetic that developed that's based on Hollywood's version of the Old West versus what the Old West actually was. I did some consulting on a couple of films when I was out in California and, had to like dig through all this and explain it. And it was really, really interesting to find all this information because there was a couple of towns. I believe St. Louis was one of them. San Francisco, there was tons of money injected into those particular cities. So they did have some elaborate sign work, but like the average, like Old West gunfight kind of town. The guy that was the undertaker in a lot of the towns, for some reason I haven't been able to track down, the undertaker was also typically the sign painter in some of these towns.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, and he would paint very generic, just like, dry goods, just like block lettering. And
R.I.P.
yeah, so some of the old photos I've seen that the sign work is just like, wow, it's like really, really primitive. But,
That's the right
with
thing. I
what
love that though.
yeah, and with what you're explaining is so fascinating that like these gypsies didn't have the money. These
Yeah,
guys that had the money because of the fairs were like, let's really go to town and decorate
yeah.
these up. And then they're like, oh, that's a cool idea. Let's incorporate it. That's super cool.
Yeah. Well, and also what they did was too, because gold leaf was expensive then. So what they would do was use silver leaf and they would varnish it over the top with like a yellow varnish
Okay.
to make it look gold. So they saved money by using the silver leaf then too.
Fascinating.
But also, so the patterns also, so I really love teaching wagon painting, and I wish that I'd known this information when I started. So I always start off with this information because it gets into your head where it comes from. So the scrolling, the carvings, they originated from the acanthus leaf, which is this huge, great, the acanthus leaf, right? This plant, and universally, like all over the world, you see it in stone, you see it in temples. It comes from Roman times. You see the acanthus leaf everywhere, and so it started off as an organic thing, shape, it was a plant. So when I do my little blurb to people at the beginning, I always say this is where it comes from. So we draw the acanthus leaf and then go in 7 stages to simplify it until it becomes a wagon scroll.
Okay.
Because when I first started, I was replicating Tom Stevenson's work, and I was doing it and thinking, oh, why does this bit go there? Okay, he puts a little flick there, but I didn't know why, Oh, why does he do that? That's a bit pointy, that's weird. But okay, I guess I better do it. And then I realized, and then when I have my own take on the acanthus leaf, you go, oh, right, it's a plant, it's organic, so it really flows, And it's a great thing to have into your head that it's a plant and the flow of it. That helped me.
That's really interesting to me too. I've been super fascinated with the whole history of the acanthus leaf for many years. I've got several books, including one that's from scratch, how to carve acanthus leaves. And
wow.
Someday, like, I hope to like set aside enough time to actually really dive into doing that, because I'm just there's a spiritual significance. That some of the sacred geometry stuff is worked into the acanthus leaves. Yeah, I'm really fascinated with it, and I love what you're saying too. That you're taking that whole design principle for the acanthus leaf, and then you're saying you're simplifying it down multiple stages. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it becomes. When the fern unfurls, you get that really tight little bit, and then you get some other pointed little leaf bits. Yeah, you do. You simplify it down. It's and the shading on it, which you do get with the actual leaf, which has been put on the carvings, and then the lining to bring it out. That all comes with it. When you're on your boat, make sure you take a bit of wood and some carving chisels.
Yeah, there you go.
That would be a great place to do it.
That would be a very kind of a Zen environment to just like do some carving.
Yeah.
So
you could be sailing along doing that.
I would love for you to, if you think of it next time you're doing that, if you could maybe just shoot me a photo of your acanthus sketch so I can wrap my brain around the simplification thing. If you feel inclined, I'd be very into that.
No, I absolutely would. Yeah, it's just to show people. I think basically not to be scared. First of all, don't be scared of it, and just look at the shape, see the flow of it, and see how it gradually changes, and then to do your own version of it. So you develop your own style.
Uh-huh.
Because I found myself copying other people's stuff
Okay.
for the first couple of years.
Until you learn to just kind of let go and be loose with it, huh?
Yeah, totally. And this lovely fellow called Yorkie Greenwood, he's a very funny character, and so he said, I used to be obsessed with flock wallpaper and carpets.
Uh-huh.
And he said, I just used to look at them all the time. And when I said, oh yeah, because that's all in a canvas leaf. Like, I don't know what it's like in the States, but in England, like in the 70s, 80s, you went into an Indian restaurant and it was this crazy velvet flock
Uh-huh.
wallpaper.
Uh-huh.
It was full on. What? Not as nice as William Morris stuff, but that,
Right, right.
that kind
But that kind of busyness.
yeah, and he just used to study carpets and wallpaper a lot.
Nice.
And weirdly, you can see it. You can see where he's coming
Huh.
from.
Awesome.
He's got his own complete particular style. And I think what gives me great joy more than anything in teaching is seeing people totally develop their style. They run with it. Some people don't.
Yeah.
They struggle. They resist it. But some people just let go and go, yeah, okay, I'm going to do this here and whoop that line around there. It's great. I really love that.
That's a good point. I still have to I catch myself sometimes, where I have to kind of almost give myself permission to just, kind of run with something and get really loose with it. And I'm always happy when I did. I just completed this old Volkswagen Beetle that one of the inspirations on it, and it reminded me.
Oh, was it the pink one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great. It was called Gypsy Wagon?
Junk Gypsy. They've got a TV show here in the United States, on one of the home channel things. And but one of the inspirations for it was John Lennon's Rolls Royce. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Oh, yes, I have. Yeah.
That yellow one. And I just I love the delivery trucks that are in India and Nepal.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I want to paint a tractor like that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, wouldn't it? An old tractor. I painted Delilah on a friend's old tractor the other day. It's a really old Ford Delta, which is really old. It's beautiful. It's got this beautiful roundy bonnet, and I painted some hot rod flames in gold just for laugh. It's really good fun to do that stuff, and I think I've started the bonnet of my car, but I've not finished it. It's but. Yeah, to do that would be really good fun. I keep meaning to get the vehicle that I know that I'm going to keep for ages, but I just keep.
Yeah.
I get old bangers that I can fit wood into.
Yeah. When I was in Nepal last year, we were shooting a documentary about craftsmen out there, and I had gone the previous year too. I was invited out, and one of the places that we went both times and got a lot of really great footage is, are you familiar with Tonka painters?
Tonka painters? I'm not sure.
So
I don't know.
It's like Tibetan Buddhist artwork.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah. A super elaborate, finely detailed, like mind-blowing, like
and
beautiful
stories.
Yeah. And each one has a full philosophical story it tells. But I was really fascinated because the instructor, Tashi Lama of the school that we went to at the Buddhanath Stupa, he started to break down the face of the Buddhas, and it's a mathematical equation. It's very similar to how letter forms are structured. Like if you're wanting to make a perfect Roman letter, it's a very similar approach. And it was also interesting though to talk to him. I had asked him in the interview, do you ever do artwork where you just cut loose and are free with it, and you could tell the concept didn't register with him.
Wow, really?
Because the culture out there for this type of work is just so this is the formula and this is how you
Yeah,
do it.
it's
And
pretty rigid, isn't it? It's rigid.
yeah, yeah.
It kind of looks really, really tight, and it's sort of geometrical, and most things are quite symmetrical, I think.
Yes, very.
And that's a huge beauty to that.
Yeah, you know, the appeal is definitely there. I mean, when you see these paintings, and I do some of those just as like my own, you know, for fun stuff.
Yeah.
The beauty in it is it's the symmetry, and it's the, you know, the balance, and the negative space is just, you know, generations of dialed in tight, you know. But it's also interesting coming from the West, where, like, you know, Jackson Pollock is like, you know,
Yeah.
you know, he's one of the people that we look to and are like, oh yeah, that's a great artist, you know. And it's like, you know, it's just worlds colliding as far as discipline versus anything goes.
Yeah, absolutely. That is really interesting. So I do love every now and again. I mean, I hadn't actually painted since October until a little while ago.
Okay.
And my God, I got stuck. I just got stuck. I had this kind of what I knew the letters I was going to do. That was fine, but yeah, I just got stuck with the colours and thought, how do I? It was incredible. I mean, it's only, you know, I don't know, October, November, December. Well, it was 4 months, but that was a long time, you know. And it felt so weird, but it took me, I know, it took me twice as long as I should have taken to do this sign because of my decisions. I was thinking, and I, you know, kind of gave myself a kick up the arse and just said, hey, come on, you know. You can do it. What are you doing? And so that was interesting. And I do love doing things completely ad hoc. Like I think, oh yeah, right, I'm going to do this scroll all that way, and then I'm going to bring it right back. And that's completely the opposite of what should happen, really. But it's nice to do these things just to see, you know, just to see what happens. And it's fun. You know, it's fun to do stuff like that.
And, you know, that again, too, that right there, like, especially with the way this last year has gone, like, I hope it's also a reminder for all of us. And I'm basically speaking like to myself, because it's something I've been working on. It's like just allowing myself to have more time to have just fun, like just to do stuff that's just fun and doesn't matter whether, you know, it's contributing to the business or not, or it's just some chore that has to get done. It's just like trying to just enjoy the time that we have right now in front of us, instead of getting wrapped up in everything else.
Yeah, fun and laughing is good for the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Indeed.
Yeah, it's important to do that, I think. I did a I don't know, a stay spaced out thing just for fun. I think, maybe that was in October. Just play, you know, it was just total play. There was no agendas, no nothing. And I love that. It's a bit of you in it, isn't it? Where you haven't got to appease somebody or you're not thinking. Often I think of the person that I'm painting for an awful lot and think, you know, oh, okay, they're like this, they like this, like that, and so I kind of do. I'm doing it for them, you know, rather than for my own amusement. And I think it's really important to that. Otherwise, you lose yourself a bit, don't you, every now and again? Well, I think.
Yes, and on top of it, you know, when I was in Nepal, I did this mural, and I ended up painting another one here in our town. And this phrase that just popped in my head last year, and it stuck with me: art is love. And it's the whole idea that, like, that's one of those pure things that we as human beings are able to do, where we just give something of ourselves, you know, absolutely. Whatever goofy passion we've been invested in for however long, and we've spent countless hours learning about it and then trying techniques and all that. And when you give that over to somebody else, that's like I don't want to sound too woo-woo about it, but it's like it's an act of love, you know? And
No, yeah,
and
that's
so
really
when
sweet.
you let yourself go, like what you're talking about, when you just let yourself go and are like, you know what, I'm just going to do this for me, that's a bigger gift to the
Yeah,
customer or the person you're doing it for than it is to do what they're thinking, or you know, maybe they saw something on Instagram and can you do something like this? That
yeah,
doesn't have the same value, because when you're
no,
giving something that you're like really letting loose on, that is your
yeah, that's
expression
you,
that
isn't it?
has that, yeah, and that's got possibly thousands of hours behind it and passion.
Mm. Mm. Do you know what? That's funny you should say that. I was thinking driving back later on, I went to pick up a load of wood for to do a shop front, and funnily enough, it was such a beautiful day, and we're not getting so many of those in England at the moment. So I had to stop and stop by a friend's place on the way. They live in a quite a rural place, and they're really, oh, they're just really dear old friends. And we went for a walk. So funny, I came back to the car and realised the wood had slightly warped because, unlike England, it was a sunny day, but it was a beautiful day, so I had to get out on it. And but driving back from there, I was thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to do a sign that said, what was it? Home is where the art is. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. That's another one. Yeah. So yes, it is. It's nice to do things like that that actually mean something to yourself rather than, yeah, just doing them because you have to or something. Yeah,
And
it's good fun.
especially, I think for me, the stuff I enjoy most is stuff that I don't ever explain. Like, you
Yeah.
know, stuff that I work in there that's like a little inside joke, or it's something that like I've
Yeah.
really wanted to work into something. And, you know,
Yeah.
the person never will ever even know what I put in there, but like almost every job has that.
Nice. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that little bit of you that goes in. I have painted a few things on wagons actually that nobody will know. Well, I actually hope they don't. Like underneath the wagon, underneath the carriage. I don't know if I should. Yeah, I'm going to say it. There's a group called Dire Straits in England. I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan of them.
I'm a fan.
Oh shit! Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but go ahead
Okay.
anyway. I'm always up for a good joke. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, so Mark Knopfler had a wagon. Oh Christ! I hope he's no. I don't care if he's listening actually. So he can look now. Now it's out. Now it's out.
I'm pretty sure he won't be listening to this.
You. So there, he had this wagon, and I knew for a fact that it was just going to sit in his garden, and it was going to rot. And it was like a trophy, you know. And I was kind of like, oh god, yeah, he's not going to take this thing out. I'll tell you what, I'll eat my words if he does, though. I'll find out that he has, and I will have to.
It's worth it. Just go for it. It's worth it.
Yeah, okay. So underneath the wagon, I wrote in big bold letters, Romeo never loved Juliet. He just liked her for microwave ovens.
That's awesome.
And I've done a few things like that on people that I just think, this is like a thing, you know, you're not going to use it, you know,
Right.
for
what it was intended.
Yeah, it's just going to sit there, and so people go, oh, you've got one of those, you know. There was a few years where a lot of celebrities would have them in their gardens or on their estate.
It was a trendy to do it, huh?
And they would never. So when they call up the guy that I was working for, they'd never tell them who they were. I guess because, you know, they probably thought, oh, he'll bump the price up.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
if he knows it's so and so. And so when it came to delivering these wagons, sometimes it was very funny, you know.
That's awesome.
It sounds like I'm name dropping here, and I really don't mean to, but it's just quite funny. So Guy Ritchie bought one for Madonna. Oh, God, I hope they're not listening either. They probably won't. Anyway, Guy Ritchie bought one for Madonna for her. I think it was her 50th birthday.
Uh-huh.
So it was and this wagon, I mean, it was a real beautiful, very old, very traditional. It was a stunning wagon. And I painted it all, and it was beautiful. And the guy said, can you deliver it on such and such a date? And she said, no, I can't. I'm somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
And he said, no, this is really important. I'll give you so much money if you deliver it. And he said, no, I have to be somewhere else. he kept on, and in the end, he said, "Oh God, all right then, okay." So they, so him and another friend went down, delivered this wagon, drove to this place, got to this huge sort of estate gates that kind of opened after they pressed the buzzer, and somebody, had to call and check who they are, and the guy in the passenger seat, that he's the carpenter, he said, hey, look, there's Guy Ritchie running towards us. And he said, who the fuck is Guy Ritchie? and then because he didn't know, he wasn't interested in celebrity status in television. Yeah. He just really hadn't got a clue about people. And then I just said, oh, hey, look, there's Madonna. I can't believe it. That's Madonna. And he said, what? Who's Madonna? It's just really funny.
That's awesome.
And so they dropped the wagon off there, and but they wanted it to be put on this big stage, for her 50th birthday. And they just said, no, this is really typical. No, mate, sorry, we've got to go. We've got to be somewhere else. We told you, we drop it off we go. So off they went, and one was explaining the other one to who Guy Ritchie and Madonna was for the rest of the journey.
You should never feel bad about name dropping. Like, that's genuine, like, marketing currency for artists. Like, I put it front and center because it helps with people, like, getting new jobs and everything else, because they see it and they're like, oh, so-and-so entrusted their project with them, and it just makes less headaches for you.
Yeah, that's
I don't view it as bragging. When I was younger, I kind of viewed it as bragging, and as I've gotten older, it's like, it just makes life easier, because it minimizes people, calling who are like, well, my project's very important, and are you worthy of having my project? It just kind of sidesteps some of that.
Yeah, I think it's because the actual thing does become like a trophy rather than the actual. So it takes a bit of honesty out of it, away from it. It's becoming something else. It's becoming this huge treasure, which in fact it is, but it's not doing its job. It's not honestly trundling off the road or being pulled by horses or something like that. I know I need to get over myself.
Yeah, because I think you're taking it too seriously. Maybe I think what it is right. If you're leaning on that, then you're off track. But if your focus is on your work and the quality of your work and becoming a better artist and all of that, and you're just using it as an advantage to, like, sell the next project and hopefully minimize the headaches of somebody talking down to you or whatever, like, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I don't want to push uphill. I'm 50, I'm 52 years old. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I want to make things as easy as I can on myself. Like, and that's, I think, one way that you can do that if you've been doing things for a long time and have worked for people like, what you're describing.
Yeah, that's really sweet. I'll try and take that advice on board. I think I find it more. I'm more grateful, I suppose, for working with really the old people that really live that life and that have pretty much poured their life and soul into it, really, because they're kind of, they're dying out, that generation. And so I feel incredibly lucky to work with them. That's I guess if I was going to brag, that would be the thing that I've worked with
that's the insane juxtaposition of where we're at now, though. And because of technology is, there's people with huge social media audiences. And then, 2 towns over, there's some old sign painter that isn't even anything you can find on the internet. And he's just got it all down rock solid and knows his stuff in and out. So we live in an insane reality now.
Yeah. yeah, absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely. We do. Everything's on the internet, isn't it? You're so true. And I do find it really refreshing when I meet somebody and they haven't even got a phone. Well, they've got one of these old Nokia house bricks, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think, yeah, great. You know, they got a phone and it rings and you answer it and no, it doesn't take pictures. I got a camera for that. Yeah, I quite like that.
yeah.
It's sweet.
Well, speaking of old world technology and speaking of, musicians you've worked for, I do like to ask people that I interview, like, what music they're listening to.
Oh my God. Um,
And you have
Phew.
to be honest. You like it can be like
Yeah.
really embarrassing, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
even better actually.
Okay, I don't know what's in better. So one of my really old favourites is Frank Zappa. I think because I
Ah,
like the man.
okay, yeah.
I love him because I think he's a genius, and I like him for what he stood for and what he fought. Um, and he was pretty misunderstood, I think, by a lot of people. So I love Frank Zappa. I don't listen.
I've never dug into him. I've only got a surface knowledge of him, and he's somebody that I've always told myself someday I'm going to go there and I'm going to just go deep dive. You know.
Well, Camarillo Brillo, or Overnight Sensations, probably the best album, I think.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I'll look for
yeah,
that
Overnight
one.
Sensations are goodie. Um, I've been listening to. See, when I paint, actually, see, I listen to all kinds of stuff. When I was in California, I listened to a lot of Lila Downs. Who's this? She's almost sort of Spanish operatic kind of. She's very passionate. And then Jim White. Have you heard Jim White?
I have not.
Oh, he's great. He's such a
What kind of
lovely guy.
genre is he? How would you describe
Oh,
him?
oh, I got some. What is he? He's. I wouldn't know how to put him. He's not a cowboy. He kind of wears a cowboy hat sometimes.
Huh.
He's a bit of a storyteller.
Okay.
He's a pretty individual dude himself. I don't know what
Huh.
category I'd want to plug him into really, but 10 miles to go on a 9 mile road is great. That's a real favorite track, that I
Okay.
love of him. Cool. I've gone really blank. Sometimes reggae, sometimes I listen to reggae occasionally.
Yeah, reggae. I've got
I love
a
Linton Crazy Johnson. Love Linton Crazy Johnson. What else have I been listening to? Oh my God, you've thrown me. I'll quickly have to. I have to check out my playlist now. That is wow. Often I have Radio 6 on. Iggy Pop on Radio 6 is really
okay.
good. He plays some really great tunes. I like old stuff that takes me back in this really safe, funky old bubble like the Pink Fairies and Twink and the Pink Fairies, which is a really Planet Gong, David Allen. That was a real, right old hippie era, but it's
Uh-huh.
kind of comfortable. And, in my head, it's when everyone was nice.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
of course.
That's
Of
the
course
memory
they
you're
were.
choosing.
Yeah, it's really funny, yeah. But of course everybody's nice now. There are nice people, but it just seems to be a comfort place. Right, what else have I got on here? Oh, The Comet is Coming. I think what was the favourite of a couple of years ago. So there are 3-piece bands, saxophone, keyboard and drums, and they
The
are off the
comet
set.
is coming.
The Comet is Coming, yeah.
Okay.
There's a track called Summon the Fire. I saw them play at Boomtown or Shambhala, I think, a couple of years ago, and they were phenomenal. Really flipping phenomenal.
Huh, I'll have to look for that too.
Yeah, Adrian Sherwood.
No, you're pulling stuff way out of left field. This is great. This will give me stuff to learn.
Oh, old favourites like the Clash, Big Audio Dynamite.
Hey, yeah, I was just listening to Big Audio Dynamite a couple days ago. That was
Hey,
one of my favorites. When Clash broke up, I was like so heartbroken, and then he popped up with Big Audio Dynamite, and I was so thrilled. And it's such a different vibe too. I like it.
yeah. It is. It's really chilled, isn't it? It's nice. Um, so Devon Sproul, she's really lovely. Um, Dub Dub Pistols. Um, and there's a few. Oh, there's a band called Echo Town. That's a couple of mates. It's their band. I love them. The Groundhogs. They're quite old, but I still love them. Wow, crikey! I like Eastern music. I love Afghan music.
Okay.
I love Kate Tempest.
Are
Kate
you
Tempest.
familiar with Tanarawin?
Yes, I love them.
I
Yeah,
got to go
yeah,
see them live a couple of
yeah.
years ago in Dallas, and
Did you?
I love that band.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're flipping great. Kate Tempest, her latest one, is brilliant. I think her first two, I think for me were a bit angry, but her last one, which was Traps and Lessons, I think it was called. That was really great. But I love that so much because I saw her do that album live. Again, it's when you and I was standing in a sea of people. I couldn't actually see her because there were so many people, and so I closed my eyes. And when she finished the set, I opened them, and there were tears rolling down my face. And I looked at everybody else, and there were young people, old people, huge people, little people, every kind of person you can imagine, and they were all tears rolling down their face. And I thought, wow, that's powerful stuff.
Yeah, that's an endorsement.
Yeah, it is. So that was really good. Playing for Change as well. I do like them. There's a whole bunch of people. You should come across them. And it's Manu Chao. It's the Italian guy who plays guitar. It's all kinds of people. An amazing guy from New Orleans. He's a busker called Grandpa. I've forgotten his name. Grandpa Nelson. But so they all get together, and they're from all around the world. And they don't get together. So they're in their separate places, but they all play the same tune, and they're all linked up.
Huh.
I love that. I love the concept that all these people from different parts of the world are all completely with each other, but actually not physically, but they're all completely into the same groove, and they're having a great time.
You love and you hate technology all at the same time.
Yeah, you got me. Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Well, I'm pretty rubbish at technology, but when other people get it together, my God, it's brilliant. What else? The Zen Hussies, and 13th Floor Elevators.
Wow, that's really throwing back, huh?
Yeah, I still occasionally there's a beautiful track that really reminds me of my grandmother. Weirdly enough, but yeah, they're good. God, you've really thrown me. That's funny, actually.
You just rattled off like 20 bands for people to dig through and find. So I don't think I rattled you. I think you did a really awesome.
Oh, that's really sweet. Well, I could. Oh God, there's canned heat going on there. You know, canned heat.
Going up the country, I know that one.
Yeah, absolutely. What else have you got? Dr. Packer. Well, yeah, I do like all sorts. Iggy Pop Radio 6. He plays a great combo of some nice folk music, some really old folk music, from the 30s. Quite like that, and Kazakhstan music from Kazakhstan. I'm trying to find you some names. I'm trying to find you some names actually. Now I've got the Chemical Brothers. Oh, Palmer International. They're great. They've got the Tesco Bombers. They're bonkers. Lee Scratch Perry and Adrian Sherwood. They're fantastic. Really, really good to listen to. Juicy Lucy. Do you remember those? They were that's really, really good band. There's loads of Frank Zappa going on. Yeah, Lee Scratch Perry again. I think that you would like Jim White. Often I tend to, if I like the people, I tend to.
You get invested in the music if you like them as a person?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I
makes
do.
sense.
There's a band called Dead Can Dance, and they kind of do this speaking
I remember
in tongues.
them.
I mean, I love Talking Heads. I love David Byrne.
Yeah, same here.
He's an artist, you know. He's quite a phenomenal guy, and I listened to an interview with him, and he's got Asperger's, and he does this. He just does incredible stuff, and he manages himself so well. Considering his shyness, that he always said that kind of comes across as quite arrogant. And I thought, wow, you're an amazing dude. So you do all this stuff and you manage it, being like you are. That always makes me really like somebody, that they have this stuff, they just, that they go on doing it. I think I like Jim White, actually. He's got, he's completely, he's got a lot of mental issues, and he's completely open about it. He's completely open. But he's such a nice dude, and so then I go, oh yeah, I like you. I like anything you do, which is kind of crazy, really. But yeah, that's how it wears on me sometimes.
Well, it's one of my favorite quotes is, "Be kind, for everyone you meet's fighting a hard battle," and I think that's a good one, because you just have no idea what anybody's struggling with, and everyone's struggling with things. I mean, no one gets by with just some, that's the whole thing that's funny about the whole, Instagram internet world is, people can portray their life as just being so smooth, and inside they're like miserable or whatever,
Yeah, they're really struggling with life and stuff, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I think, and there is a bit of struggle, well, especially at the moment, with all kinds of stuff going on. And I think it's just refreshing when people, rather than do all the sparkly stuff, and come out and go, yeah, this is well, that's well. I actually like it when people say, do you know what? Well, man, I've had a shit day. Or, wow, it's just real. It's a bit realer, Alabama 3. Have you heard Alabama 3?
I've heard the name, and I haven't listened to them.
They're quite good fun. Now, Buffy Sainte-Marie. You know Buffy Sainte-Marie.
I know that name also, but I couldn't name a song.
So that lady, she's 74 years old.
Really?
And her last track is called Spirit of the Wind. Wow. That is something else. And I think I get kind of hooked on tunes and have to listen to them about 5-6 times a day sometimes, and that was definitely one I remember when I was in California, thinking, whoa, that's incredible. And she's great to watch in it too. I definitely recommend that one.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you carving out the time to do this. I know that I've been, we've been trying to connect to do this for a while, and then I had a hiatus from doing the podcast with moving and other changes, but I'm really glad that you made the time. What's that?
Sean, thank you. You've moved as well within this all.
Oh yeah. Well, that was 2 years ago now.
Wow.
That I moved. Yeah.
Too nice and settled. Hey, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing it. Because I never got to listen to the last lot of podcasts, but now
you have no excuse.
My hand doing Zoom, I'm on it.
Well, and
Thank
I
you
would like
so
to
much.
encourage you that even though you're not a big fan of tech stuff, to continue to post pictures of your work because there's people like me that actually really enjoy seeing it.
You are so sweet. Well, honestly, coming from you, that's a massive compliment. And I so appreciate that because you guys are amazing. I just love what you do. And I love the old stuff, like the old Victorian type stuff. I remember seeing your Star Studios. It was in black and white. It was quite a few years ago now. And I just thought, flipping wow. That was like straight out of a Victorian.
Thank you. I'm a self-described history nerd. So like, I just love
Excellent.
digging into stuff and making sure that stuff's period correct to the buildings and all that. I love all of that.
Right. I love ghost signs. Do you? Absolutely.
For sure.
Every now and again, I'll see one in the town really high up, that's painted absolutely gorgeous. In fact, going down through France a couple of years ago, there were so many.
In France, I guess, I mean, I don't know why that surprises me, but I've never been there, so it just seems like, oh, wow. But yeah, no, that's cool.
Yeah, I wish. I think I got a couple of photos, but I wish. It's something that it would be great to get a really good camera and just go, right, okay, I'm going to do a whole project on ghost signs.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, really nice. And you've got a lot in the States, I guess, too.
Yeah, advertising, pros and cons of that. We could go on for hours, but like United States is like the center of like ridiculous over the top advertising. And the good side of that is there's still tons of great old signs in most of the bigger cities. And even some of the small towns, you'll like go downtown and see stuff painted on side of buildings. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And they got painted by the brick. They got paid by the brick today.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Yeah, someone told me that. So they would say what they wanted on the wall, then they would count
how many bricks. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's kind of like square foot pricing, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'd never heard that. That's fascinating.
I don't know if it's true or not. That's just what someone told me.
I'm willing to repeat it without verification.
Yeah, I just did.
Well, thanks
Sean,
again.
Thanks, Sean.
I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, I do too. Thank you. And all the best with your boat.
Yes,
I think that's such
we're not sure how we're pulling that off yet, but we're going to keep at it until we make it happen.
Absolutely. I'll send you a load of pictures of the cat.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Great.
Cheers, Madhu. Thank you.
Okay, Hep Cats. This is the part of the show where we play a song from the Arhoolie archive, so pay attention. You can get these tunes from the legendary Arhoolie records at arhoolie.com. Now sit back, open up some One Shot, crank up the volume, and expand your minds, babies.
Joanne.